Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Beyond the Locker Room. I'm your host, Brian Tull. Just want to get through a few things for this week in sports. A lot of stuff's going on as usual. We're approaching March Madness, so in the next few weeks I'll start giving out my thoughts and my picks on who's going to win the big dance. But we'll get to that next week in the coming weeks. But for now, I'm going to start with the links in this case. I'm going to start with Rory McIlroy, his performance this past weekend at the Honda Classic, I believe. He just had a horrible Friday afternoon. He shot 7 over after 8 holes. He knocks off the tee, I think, on the 9th hole, and then somehow finds the water. And decides at that point to pretty much pick up his clubs and call it a day. He said, had enough of it. Pretty much his thoughts were that he wasn't in a good place. Then afterwards, he came back and kind of made a new statement saying that he had a wisdom tooth that was, aching him and it was hurting his concentration. So overall, let's see here. He decided to quit. Then afterwards, made golfers look even worse by saying that, he had toothache essentially, and he had enough of it and decided to walk off the course. So all around, not a great showing for the number one player of the world. Even Jack Nicklaus had made comments about it today in the telecast. And if you're wearing the crown, it gets heavy at times, and it's not an easy thing to perform under those bright lights when you're the number one player in the world and everyone's hunting for you, and everyone's looking for your time, and you're not really bringing out your best stuff. So if it's the clubs, if it's the social life, if it's just the pressure of being number one, whatever the case may be, he's got 4 weeks or 5 weeks to sort this out before the Masters, or he might be wasting his time going to Augusta. So Rory, man, get it together. It was not a good performance, as being the number one player in the world. Everyone can say what they want about Tiger and his social life and his personal life, but when it came to being on the course, Tiger, win, lose or draw, he was going out there to win, and he was always making sure he's going to try to put his best foot forward to try to win. Even when he's having a tough day, he'll grind it out. So Rory's got to step up, being now the new face of the PGA. And wearing that crown as the number one player in the world. So not a good showing from him. Moving on to the association, right now I'm checking out this Pacers-Bulls game, and I'll get to that in a second, but a couple of games happened this afternoon. Miami versus the Knicks and the Clippers and Thunder. I'll start with the Heat game first. The Heat show why they're the best team, not only in the East, but in the league. They just turned it on the second half. The defense was unreal. It seemed like 6 players were out there at times, and New York could not find a way to get a shot off. They're chasing guys off the 3-point line. They're rotating just unbelievable, and once again, that 3-headed monster they have, the big 3, just make it so difficult for you as on your defense to actually, double or even try to hedge to one side, to the strong side of the court, because there's just no chance for you to actually double team or hedge on anyone because they have so many weapons on that team. So, and LeBron was LeBron once again. I don't know why we just mailed the MVP to him right now. It's a done deal. In the West Side, OKC, once again, I'll say it straight up. I'm not sold on OKC. You heard it here first. I would not be surprised if there's another representative in the Western Conference in June. I find, even though they're playing great, I find OKC to be very temperamental, and too many times there's streakiness comes into play where they'll have great quarters or halves, and then all of a sudden, you turn around, you can't even believe it's the same team playing. Westbrook was fantastic as well as Durant, but it was a chippy game, but I would be a little concerned about them. And the Clippers. I mean, everything comes through Chris Paul and that bench. Blake Griffin had a strong game, but I think it'll be interesting to see how he handles the playoffs this year, as there's definitely a book out on him now on how to kind of try to slow him down, try to be as physical as possible with him. Memphis was doing that a lot with him last year, as mentioned in the telecast, and I think a lot of teams, as we get close to the playoffs, are going to continue to do that with Blake. Last but not least, definitely, is probably one of the most underreported stories, and I think I blame the NHL for this, is the Blackhawks now 22-point game streak. It's been really unbelievable in this day and age, considering how free agency works and people moving around to find a team to be this dominant, especially after a lockout. I just find it unreal for them. They've taken all comers. I really thought the Red Wings might have a shot over the weekend, to break the streak, but they found a way, and they found a way against Columbus as well too, in overtime. So they've just been fantastic all around, and I think the AHL really has done a disservice to them and the league overall by not really pushing this story. I mean, they're expecting it just to be taken on its merits, and I think if you're the AHL, you gotta find ways to get that story out there, especially in the American media where the competition is so intense. When you're dealing with March Madness coming around the corner, you just had the Daytona 500. You're dealing with, of course, the NBA coming down the stretch. I mean, football's coming close to the NFL draft. There's so many different things, and of course, spring training and baseball. You have to find ways to push your story as aggressive as possible. And I think the AHL has done a disservice to the Blackhawks in the league by not pushing the story more. So hopefully, in the coming weeks, the AHL kind of gets off the stoop and starts doing something about it, getting their name and their brand out there a lot more. Blackhawks have a lot of young stars. They're an exciting team to watch, and I think they're a big market too. So it's all the things that you would want from the NHL or the NHL would wish they had. So for them, I think, as I said before last week, a dream scenario for the NHL moving on would be like a Chicago-LA Western Conference final, and then a Penguins versus I don't think Washington at this point, but Penguins being Rangers or some big market team in the East that really juice up things on the AHL side. But that's kind of like what I see happening right now in the AHL, and hopefully they'll get the story moving in the next couple of weeks if this streak continues. And right now the Blackhawks schedule looks pretty good that they could continue this for another week or so. So those are my thoughts this week. You tell me your thoughts on Rory's performance, or your thoughts on how the NBA final 20 or 25 games are going to go down, or how the Chicago streak when's it going to end, and which team's going to actually deliver the blow to them. So give me your thoughts. Put it in the comments box down below. I'd love to hear your thoughts on things. Talk to you next week.